Hello. In today's video, I will introduce the court and I will talk about the King of Cups. So the court is the next section of my deck. So I broke it down into three parts. The major arcana, we're coming out of the major arcana now, where the major arcana was representing major life events, major life transitions, spiritual states, kind of big themes in one's life. We're moving from that into the court, which represents people. It represents either the self or other people coming in or going out of one's life, colleagues, loved ones, that kind of thing. And so some decks put the court like it'll divide each suit into like ace through king, putting the court at the end of, the minor arcana like for each suit. And for my deck, I've kind of pulled it apart and represented the court separately just because they represent people versus like these minor life events and kind of transitional states that one might be in, temporary situations, which is what the minor arcana represents. In many of the books that I read, of course, they were mixed between representing the court at the end of each of the suits, and then some books represented the court as a separate kind of category. And so that made a lot of sense to me. And so I am representing the court. I'm going to talk about the court kind of as its own category. So my court is different from the base deck, the Rider-Waite deck, where they have a page. I have replaced the page with a maiden. And how I've understood these cards and like the representation of people is that the kings represent mature masculine energy. And so they will represent like whatever their suit is, how it's manifesting in a masculine form and in a mature masculine form. So they've gone through, childhood and adolescence and early adulthood, and now they're mature men and working with this energy from that perspective. The queens will represent, that energy from the feminine perspective. And so a mature woman who has gone through, like we're talking about like either an older mother or a crone or, someone who's mature and like kind of understands her own, self, her own life, her own, what she brings to the world. She understands it well and is like the queens are going to represent that energy. Like once one is really settled into it and is relating to like the fruits or the essence of that energy. Then we have the knights, which are immature masculine energy within whatever his suit is. And we're talking about like adolescence through early adulthood. Of course, it could represent childhood, but I often think of this energy as, this energy of like kind of careless with it, kind of immature, but kind of coming into it a little bit. And then the maidens would be the feminine immature energy. And so it would represent, young women, possibly children, adolescents, that kind of energy, or those kinds of people in that kind of area of life or that period in one's life. Again, these cards represent people in one's life. It could be yourself, or it could be other people. It could be loved ones or colleagues or acquaintances, people coming and going out of one's life, or, representing people. Excuse me. From here forward, I have broken, so like the court is broken down into its suits. It'll be king, queen, knight, and then maiden. And each of the suits are broken down that way. And how I have organized my deck is that the cups, the Vajra energy, the water will be first, and then we will have the earth, the coins, the Ratna energy. Then there is the Padma, fire, wands, and last is the swords, air, karma energy. And so as I'm going through the court, and it will be the same for the minor arcana, so I will represent each of the suits, ace through 10 of the minor arcana, and I'll represent each suit individually. Like it'll be, ace through 10 of the cups, and then ace through 10 of the coins, and then, on and on. And like I say, again, the court will also be represented in that way. And so these first 4 videos will be the king through maiden of the cups. And then next we go on to coins, etc. Today I will talk about the king of cups. And I don't have the deck yet. Thank goodness it has finally gone to print and should be in the next month. Fingers crossed. But until then, I will be using these proofs, which, as I explained before, are a bit too dark and, squared, and it's not what the card is actually going to look like. They're also a little bit off center, but, I'm working with what I have. And so here's the King of Cups. And he is, he represents a father figure. He is clear-sighted. He's about like maintaining order. He probably is one who holds kind of strict boundaries. He's the kind of guy who he's been working with this energy for a long time. And so he has come to a place of maturity with it where he knows and understands how to move the way that he moves. He's mastered it. He knows how to work with the water energy, the clarity, and he's kind of set in his ways. With that, he has a lot of wisdom in this area. He has a lot of wisdom in like seeing things clearly, kind of dismantling the veil, like anything cloudy, he can see right through it. He is, because he has such clear sight, he puts things in perspective, and he is able to, like I say, create clear boundaries. He holds his boundaries and has no shame around that. So in his wisdom state, he's representing clear sight. He's representing this wisdom of like precision, of being able to see and understand things, like very clearly. He can see through any BS. He can see it for what it is and as it is, and he will respond accordingly. In his neurotic state, he is working with very strict and rigid boundaries. Because he sees so clearly, he sometimes can get caught up in this inability to allow others either into his space or to be as they are. He wants things, he wants the order, he wants the clarity, he's very strict with his boundaries. And so because of that, he can be kind of isolated or a little bit cutting or a little bit hard to deal with, because he's going to maintain like this very strict attachment to his boundaries. He can be argumentative because he sees things so clearly, and so kind of intolerant of that which goes against what he understands and what he sees. And he can be arrogant because he does have such wisdom and knowledge. He knows that he knows what he knows. He knows that he sees what he sees. He knows that his vision isn't cloudy. And so with that, when he gets into his neurotic state, he can become quite arrogant. This card was the first card. So when these cards were created, I created all 4 kings, then all 4 queens, then all 4 knights, then all 4 maidens. When he was created, he was actually the first card that I created in the court. And his throne kind of went through different changes, but once he arrived, he was pretty much kind of complete. There were some minor changes to like his hands and like minor details, but overall he was kind of manifested as he is and kind of stayed that way. What else do I want to say about him? He's an energy, I guess, for me that's very comfortable. I work with a lot of this energy, both in its wisdom and neurotic state, and I am often quite fond of men who relate to this energy. It's an attractive energy to me because the clarity and the kind of the boundaries, I'm really comfortable with, like very clear and precise boundaries. I'm very comfortable with clear sight, and so a lot of times where people might be, put off by his arrogance, I'm actually quite attracted to this kind of energy, and so it's interesting. It was interesting going through this, like the co-creation of the deck and finding myself attracted to or kind of repulsed by different cards and different energy. And he was definitely one of the ones I was attracted to. One of the other things I want to say about the court is it is racialized. This particular energy, I think, manifests in both the white and black culture. I often think of this energy like the mature masculine energy, either as like, I think my father had a lot of this energy, and so probably that's why I am like really comfortable with it and comfortable with its correction and comfortable with like how it kind of manifests in this mature kind of way. But it felt like this particular energy needed to be represented by a mix of like mixed people, white people, black people. Like it felt like it was important to represent this energy in that way, because I think that culturally it manifests in these different cultures in, like I see it in these different cultures. I think about like my father was, he played the African drum and he taught people about meter. And there's like, because he could see and hear very clearly, there wasn't any kind of like wishy-washy around like someone playing in meter. Like either you were in meter or you were out of meter, and it was very clear that like you're out of meter, and there is really no tolerance for someone playing out of meter. Like either stop and sit there and listen, or get in line with what's happening here. And so I think of this energy like, I think that's a very African kind of trait. I also think it's represented in like, you know, European culture, where it's like there's going to be like the creation of maps, like the study of medicine and how precise that is, because I can see, you know, 5 steps ahead. Let me figure out how to like map this out. Okay, like here's your diagnosis, what is coming next. There's a lot of that kind of thing in, I think, the global northern cultures, where that kind of precision, seeing things very clearly, understanding how to map things out, is, you know, culturally, I think that it is seen in at least these 2 cultures. And certainly in the United States culture, in the Black culture, I think that there's a lot of this energy, as well as the white culture of the United States, where, you know, like there are these clear paths to, you know, success within the white world, and then there are these clear boundaries that are held within the Black world. And so, yeah, that is the King of Cups. The next video will be the Queen of Cups, and I look forward to sharing that video with you soon. Thank you for joining me.